Okay, so I'm here today with Louisa, who is an author and has a great new book that she has just published, which we're excited to talk to. And she's also, and I'm going to let you say it now,
a positive psychology expert.
which I like. That's awesome. And a speaker. And today she put on a great talk for a packed audience, which is amazing. So, Louisa, one of the things that I was really interested to learn from you on is that when we talked about it, when somebody in sales, and there were some statistics that you showed that people don't go for that second call, they just kind of get depleted and say, well, they didn't take my first call, and they start to get run down a little bit. What things do you think that people should look at or focus on to help them get their energy, get that push back into their life so they feel like they're attacking the world again? Because a lot of people start to close off. What things can you recommend for the people out there in the audience on sales and how to be better at what they're doing?
Well, one of the things that I talk about when it comes to prospecting, because prospecting is a really hard thing to do, right? We get a lot of rejection in sales when we're prospecting. So in that case, I always say, don't take the rejection personally. One of my favorite quotes is by Seth Godin, and he said, people don't reject you, they reject your story. And I love that quote because I think to myself, oh, okay, it's not about me and my service and whether I'm really good at what I do. It's really maybe how I presented it to the person. It was my marketing materials. It was the benefits, maybe the benefits that I was talking about didn't resound with them. So I think, well, what's a different way that I could approach it? What's more important for that person? How can I tap into what their pain points are and maybe try this again? And so that kind of gives me the energy to try again. But another thing I also suggest to people is social support. Oftentimes when something bad has happened, we kind of just lock ourselves in our offices or we don't get out of bed or, whatever it is. And when you're feeling really down or something really bad has happened, call a friend or call a mentor or call someone in your mastermind group and hash it out with them and see if you can see a new perspective on it. And that can be one of the best resilience strategies that we have for bouncing back.
I heard a lot today was on the resilience side. I really enjoyed that whole part of it. And I think a lot of people, sometimes you just get stuck doing routines and you're not looking at how you can advance your routine. And I have a feeling that your book talks a lot about that. Is there kind of an insert that you want to throw out from your book that might help others think, you know what, I really should pick this book up and read it, because I'm sure there's a ton of amazing things inside of it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of what my book talks about is not general confidence, called Wire Your Brain for Confidence, but it's not about general confidence because, I always had a lot of confidence, but I was still stopping myself from going after my bigger goals and dreams. And when I went back to school and did my master's degree, I realized there's different kinds of confidence. So what I talk about in the book is a more action-oriented kind of confidence. I wanted to know, how do I break down the resistance between doing the stuff that I really, really want to do that's holding me back? And what the book talks about is 4 different sources of that kind of confidence. And once I started to apply that model to my life, I completely transformed. I started to go after my bigger goals and dreams without resistance. So that's what I'm really excited about the book, is that there's many different sources. And once we have the confidence to go after what we really want and live an authentic life and build the businesses that we really want for ourselves and be successful, it's magic. It's great.
I think your smile's magic. I get excited just talking to you. I'm kind of thinking like, I haven't even read the book yet, and I'm like, I want the book. How do I get this book? So yes, on Amazon? Okay, so there you go. We got to go to Amazon. But I think that's amazing. So I appreciate that. Everybody can see the book here, Wire Your Brain for Confidence. So today we were with Louisa. You're going to have to check it out online. There's a great talk, and there's probably a lot more information you can find on about Louisa and all the places that she has spoken at. And if you're looking to have her speak at an event, certainly reach out to her because she'd be excited for that. I'm plugging you. So at OPN, I want to thank everybody. Louisa, speaker, author, Jeffrey Potvin from the OPN Network, and we thank BACD and the town of Whitby for putting on such a great event. Thank you.
And introduce Louisa. And on your tables, we've got a list of all the events for the year, all the upsales events.
So who was here last month? Yeah. Which one of you guys told my wife that I said I didn't really want to get married and I went with my gut feeling? Durham is small, eh? I'm just warning you. So, if you remember, last week we were fortunate to have Gary. Gary is the chair of the BACD. And when he got off the stage, I was introducing, saying our next speaker is going to be Louisa. And it just happens to be that Louisa and Gary work together. I believe it was IBM? Yeah. IBM. So Louisa was introduced to me through a good friend named Caesar. Caesar said that he wanted me to meet Louisa, so we went downtown, I met Louisa. I'm a little nervous this morning, only because normally it's people that have been through the trenches, and I know Louisa has, but she's all about the psychology and the mind. And again, back to my wife, she says that today I should be a better man when I go back home. So I'm really hoping. Louisa was kind enough, she actually travels quite a bit, but she was kind enough to come out here today and talk to us about the psychology of the mind. I heard some good conversation at my table about exactly the subject matter that Eugene was talking, so this is going to be cool. If you'll give me a sec, today's session is actually called Resilience for Sales Performance, and I'm just going to give you a quick bio on Louisa, okay? But we met downtown. The way we like to do these things is, normally I meet with... normally we meet. I've only known Louisa for a few weeks, but I can tell you the first time I met with her, downtown Toronto, I knew she would be a doozy to come out here in Durham and also expose Durham. She brought her friend Lisa with her as well. So Louisa Jewell is a speaker, author, and positive psychology expert who has facilitated thousands of people towards greater flourishing both at work and in their personal lives. She is the founder of the Canadian Positive Psychology Association, known as CPPA, an organization that brings together leading-edge researchers and practitioners to share the latest knowledge and optimal performance and well-being to improve the health of all Canadians. She is a graduate of the Masters of Applied Positive Psychology, known as MAPP, program at the University of Pennsylvania, and a professor at the University of Texas in Dallas. She regularly delivers webinars and workshops to educators and practitioners around the world. Her work has been featured in Forbes, the Globe and Mail, Toronto Star, Huffington Post, Canadian Living Magazine, Live Happy Magazine, Chatelaine, Psychology Today, Zoomer Magazine, and CHTH TV, to name a few. Her book, Wire Your Brain, oops, I destroyed the set, for Confidence, The Science of Conquering Self-Doubt, was released in September 2017. And I know the BACD purchased quite a few books today for you guys as a draw or something.
55 to give away today.
To get a giveaway. So please, would you help me welcome Louisa? Big round of welcome for Louisa.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Can you hear me at the back? Okay? Yes? Okay, I'll try to speak loudly. So, Frank, I'm sorry, while I know a lot about psychology, I've never been able to figure out the man's mind yet. Really sorry to disappoint your wife. I don't know if there's going to be any movement today. But. All right, so today I'm talking about resilience. So everybody here is running a business, owns a business. Everyone hands up. Everyone in the room. All right, so we're all entrepreneurs in the room. So why do we need resilience? And I found this image on the internet, and I loved it. And I thought, yeah, this is a day in the life of an entrepreneur, right? It's you know, some days everything's great, other days things are all messed up, and you know, so we have to be able to think about how to stay in the right state of mind as we have all of these ups and downs that we're dealing with. And I sort of like the metaphor of a toaster, right? So as entrepreneurs, you know, we have our tools, we know as we go out into the marketplace what we want to do. And so when you think about making toast, it's like, yeah, I've got the toaster, I've got the toast, and you're pressing down to get the toast to toast, and it's not working, and you realize you haven't plugged it in, right? And that's how I think of resilience. that we don't really think about how am I plugging myself in? How do I plug into a source of energy that's going to keep me persevering? Because we know perseverance is the game when it comes to entrepreneurship. And so what is that energy source? How do I tap into it? And how do I continue to allow it to fuel me and give me the energy that I need to do what I need to do on a daily basis? So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about resilience and what it is. And I want to give you some tools that you can use and walk away with so you know how to be more resilient. So we teach resilience training to 1.6 million soldiers in the U.S. Army. So this is real evidence-based research on what keeps us psychologically resilient. So first of all, I want to talk about bouncing back quickly after setbacks and give you some tools for that. I want to talk about learning from failure and getting even better. If we're not learning from failure, then it kind of just feels bad and nothing else, right? So we want to be able to get as much as we can out of our failures. Conquering stress and feeling strong is important as well. And finally, knowing how to stay motivated and juiced, I call it juiced, no matter what. And this is about managing your daily energy. So let me start off, first of all, with bouncing back quickly after a setback. And in order for me to demonstrate the tool in this, I want to start off with a little bit of a fun exercise, but it's going to require a little bit of an imagination and play. Do you think you could use your imagination and play a little bit? Yes? Are you willing to play a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
All right, then everyone stand up. Okay, I call this exercise New York City Introductions. So you live here, you work here in Ontario, you find yourself in New York City, and you're walking down the street and oh my gosh, who do you run into? You run into one of your most favorite people in the world, but you haven't seen this person in years and years. Like this is an old buddy from like camp or school or the old neighborhood. What are they doing in New York City? You're so excited to see them. I want you to greet as many people around you just like that. Ready? Go! Oh my God!
And even if it's just a little, let's go walk back 5, 10 years down the road. That's a huge difference.
How do you feel right now? Right?
Woken up.
Yes. I love that exercise. It doesn't matter if I have 5 people in the room or 600 people in the room, it always works. So I call that a jolt of joy. And now I asked you to play a little bit, and then you did it, but there was something in between the time that I asked you and you actually did it, and that was you made a choice, right? You made a choice, all right, you could have said, screw her, I'm not gonna touch people. I want to talk, I want to hear people and do this stupid exercise, right? But you didn't. You said, oh, what the heck, I'll have a little bit of fun. So you made a choice, and that's the thing about bringing joy, and bringing a jolt of joy is you can actually decide when you want to do it. And so think about, this is really a very, very simple tool. What's a jolt of joy for you? So now something bad has happened. Now you're not feeling great about whatever it is that's just happened. What's a quick hit that you can give yourself to give yourself a jolt of joy? Like I know for me, I put on some 70s disco and I'm in a total, yeah, you got it, sister, right? Yeah. That's right, exactly. So I try not to sing the words when I'm around young people to, because then they know my age right away. But yeah, so I know what my jolts of joy are. Can you think of what your jolts of joy are and how you can quickly turn around and get yourself back into a positive state of mind after some adversity happens? Now, I'm not saying, oh, just go and be positive and all your problems are going to go away. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you're in a positive state of mind, you're actually in a better state to be able to handle whatever it is you're going through. So we know from the research that being in a positive state of mind, that you actually feel more confident, your brain is broadened, you can actually see more possibilities, you're more productive, you feel like doing more things. And you ruminate less. So ruminating is when something happens and you think about it over and over and over again. Does anybody ruminate in the room, right? Right? It's a problem more for women than it is for men. And what they found in the research is that if you can get yourself into a positive state, you have better control over your ruminations and you ruminate less. The problem with ruminating is when you're thinking about it over and over and into the next day, it's affecting your performance the whole rest of the day and the next day. So the quicker we can stop ruminating, the better it is for yourself to be able to bounce back and move on to that next sales call you have to make or that next meeting that you have to attend so that you can be on your game. So there's an undoing effect of positive emotions. Here's another really interesting piece of research by Young Beeman and Associates. And what they found that a recent fMRI study, so fMRI is when they actually put a cap on people's heads and they can see what's going on in their brains as they perform certain psychological experiments on people. So what they're doing here is they're actually studying the aha moment. What happens? What's going on in somebody's brain when they're having an aha moment? And as entrepreneurs, it's so important to have aha moments, isn't it? The last week I was in Cincinnati, I was at the Mayerson Academy. I had so many meetings with so many people, different people, and it found out they were doing so many interesting things. And as I came off of that on the plane, I had so many aha moments. I could do this, I could do that, I could have this service, this talk. And I had so many different ideas as a result of those meetings. So in this study, it showed that people are more likely to solve problems with insight. They call the aha moment insight. If they're in a positive mood when they arrive at the lab, than if they're in a negative or a neutral mood. And they also found that positive mood affects our cognitive ability in ways that facilitate an aha moment, and that anxiety has the opposite effect. And when people are in a positive mood, they solve more problems, and they solve more of them with insight or aha moments than they do when they're in a neutral or negative mood. We know also from the research that people who are in a positive state of mind and are happy are actually better at sales. And do you know why? Do you know why they have higher sales? Because when people see that you're happy, they trust you more. Do you know that one of the statistics that I read recently is that only 3% of prospects actually trust salespeople? So yeah, it's pretty low. So anything we can do to increase the trust factor, and if that is just being happy, showing up as a happy person, then what they find is those people actually sell more. We find that there's less burnout with people who are happier. We find that they're more productive on a daily basis. They do better on intelligence tests. So being happy, we used to say, oh, work hard, then you will be successful, then you will be happy. And now we're saying the research shows be happy, that is a cause of your success. So we know it's a causal contributor now to success in many, many different areas of our lives. So what are some quick hits for bouncing back with happiness? Well, these are really quick, right? Gratitude, being grateful. Whenever something happens, I think to myself, well, it could have been worse, you know, could have been worse. I'm grateful for what didn't happen, right? Or oftentimes if I'm, feeling like I'm not doing enough, I'm grateful for what I already have. I'm grateful for what I've already done. Pet your dog if you have a pet. We know from petting your dog that you actually release oxytocin into your system, and oxytocin we call the love hormone in our bodies. So just petting your dog can increase your happiness. It also increases the oxytocin levels in the dog, by the way, too. Get out in nature, one of the best ways to increase happiness. It's scientifically documented that actually being in nature even gives you a bigger boost. Listen to your favorite music, that works for me, and laughter. Sometimes I'll just put something funny on, from YouTube, and there I am in a completely different state of mind. So, the thing is with being an entrepreneur, we don't necessarily have the time to go take the day off and go to the spa, or take a week off and go to the Caribbean and get some rest, right? We don't have that. So we need these little things we can do in the day that will boost our happiness levels on a regular basis. Now, I teach happiness, so I could in 240 hours tell you way more about how to boost your happiness levels. These are just some quick hits known in the research that can help you bounce back quickly. And another thing really, really important for your resilience is social support. One of the #1 contributing factors to resilience is social support. What happens? We always think, I'm strong, I can go it alone. And in fact, the most resilient people don't go it alone. They have really good social supports. Who are your social supports? Always have good, solid, positive people around you that are encouraging you, like a good friend. So one time I had something happen early on when I started the association. A really big name in positive psychology didn't like something that we did, and he slammed me. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the end. I haven't even started this association, and this is already the end, and I'm catastrophizing. I'm thinking this is terrible. He's going to tell everybody in the community, what are we going to do? And I strategized with our board. And I called my good friend to tell her what happened, the conversation. She thought he was crazy. She had me laughing my head off. I was screaming, laughing. I hung up the phone feeling so much better, back in a positive state, and I was able to deal with the issue. And in fact, none of those things came true. Nothing happened. We moved on. Everything was absolutely fine, and everything carried on. So good to have a good friend to call when something really strange and out of the blue happens like that. Having mentors is really important. When you don't know what to do, have a mentor. Like, what do I do? I've never done this before. I've never looked at this kind of contract before. I've never done a negotiation like this. What do I do? Mastermind groups. How many people here are in a mastermind group? Okay, so a few people. So a mastermind group, for me anyway, there's 4 people in my mastermind group, which includes me. Every month we get together for 2 hours. We're all across North America and Mexico. So we do it on Zoom so we can actually see each other. We have 2 hours every month. Everybody gets half an hour on the stage. And so for the first 5 minutes, you kind of talk about your wins or challenges or whatever has happened that month. And then you share, okay, here's my issue, or here's what I need help with. And we discuss that. And then for the next 25 minutes, the other people give you advice and guidance on what you would do. And then we move on to the next person. So we have a timekeeper. And I've done this religiously for several years with these 3 other people. And I can tell you that that is one of the #1 things I have done to really grow my business exponentially over the last 4 years. So really, really important to think about. And it's regular, and we are religious about our meetings. We block it off, and clients don't get in the way. Nobody gets in the way of our mastermind meetings. And if there's nobody around that you can go to, then coaches are excellent too, right? Hire a coach to be able to help you get through things. But social support, we know from the literature, so important to resilience. All right, so let me move on to the next thing I want to talk about, which is learning from failure and then getting even better. I love this quote: failure is success in progress. And it's so true, right? Because often we think, you know, that success, oh, if I'm going in this direction, then I'm successful, and if I'm going in this direction, I'm failing, right? And we have to find some comfort level with failure, because this is not true. In fact, an entrepreneur's journey, failure and success are on the same road, right? You know, we don't just go, hey, everything's going great, 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 great. You know, that's not how the journey goes as an entrepreneur. We're doing great, and then all of a sudden, you know, where did all the sales go, right? What's happening? And, you know, and then it's going great again, and, you know, and things drop out again. So it's constantly up and down, up and down. So we know that failure and success are actually on the same road for us as entrepreneurs. So we need to feel some comfort level with failure. Now, and if you want to be successful, you have to persevere in the sales business. So here's some more statistics. There's a relationship between the number of opportunities in your pipeline each month and quota attainment. HubSpot research found 72% of companies with less than 50 new opportunities per month did not achieve their revenue goals, compared to just 4% for companies with 101 to 200 new opportunities. That's a lot of prospecting. That's a lot of work to fill your pipeline with that many people or that many opportunities every single month. And it takes an average of 18 calls to actually connect with the buyer. That takes a lot of resilience too, to have this kind of perseverance. How many of you would go through 18 calls to get in touch with the buyer? I don't, right? That takes a lot of resilience and persistence and perseverance. So, you know, we have to kind of be comfortable with rejection. We have to open ourselves up to rejection, but rejection doesn't feel good, does it? Anyone here like rejection? I don't like rejection. It doesn't feel good. And you're not alone. The average salesperson only makes 2 attempts to contact a person, and 44% of sales reps will give up after 1 attempt. So how do I improve my resilience when it comes to feeling more comfortable with rejection? And I'll tell you, I had my aha moment when I saw this quote by Seth Godin. People don't reject you, they reject your story. And I loved that. I had a revelation when I saw that. And I thought, yes, let's not take it so personally when they say no. Let's not take it so personally when they reject you, because maybe you just didn't present it right. Maybe your marketing materials are not hitting the right buttons. It's not coming up with the right information that's resounding with that person. Or maybe it's what you wore that day, or the lipstick you had on, or well, the men, I guess, hopefully are not wearing lipstick anyway. But so when I thought this, I thought it depersonalized rejection for me, and that feels better. That feels better to me when I think, okay, you know what? I just didn't approach it right. I'm going to come back with a different tact next time. So this is a great way to take a look at it. So when you think about learning from failure, really what you say to yourself after a rejection is the key to bouncing back quickly and learning with every attempt. What you say to yourself. So I sort of think there's 3 options on self-talk. First option is worst enemy. Have you seen this? You're such an idiot. How embarrassing. No one's ever going to buy your services. You're a big fat loser, right? Right? This is when you're on Facebook and your friend just bought a boat and you're going, where's my boat, right? Then you have to unfriend them, you know, right? Worst enemy. Is this helpful? Is this going to help you bounce back? No, this is going to make you sit in that negativity. It's not helpful when you are beating yourself up. And you know what? We wouldn't say this to anybody, would we, right? And yet somehow we say it to ourselves. You know, my ruminations were so bad many years ago. I don't ruminate anymore because I've trained myself out of it. But my ruminations were so bad, and they were so automatic. And one time I remember I'm walking down the street and I actually stopped and heard what I was saying to myself. And I was so shocked at what I was saying to myself. And I thought, who the hell do you think you are, Louisa? Talking to yourself like that. You know, who the hell do you think you are? Because if my husband spoke to me like that, or my daughter spoke to me like that, or my best friend, I would have kicked them to the curb so fast, right? I'm Sicilian too, so, right? It would have happened. And yet, why was it okay for me to talk to myself like that? So I thought, that's it. You're out of here. Whoever you are following me around, you're out. I'm bringing in a new person. So then I thought, I'll bring in my nicest friend, right? Oh, you're amazing. Never forget that. You know, don't worry, you'll be fine. It's okay. Love you so much, right? Now, is this helpful too when you're trying to learn and grow? Not so helpful, because you might just be glossing over and not learning from your experience. So really, the best kind of self-talk is constructive. It's your wisest coach. It's being able to recognize your own positive self-criticizer without the beating up part. It's about being able to say, okay, that didn't go as planned. That didn't go too well. Let's think of ways we can recover, right? What did go well? What part of it did you nail? What did not go well? What will you do differently next time, right? What part of it do you want to improve? Who do you think can help you if you're stuck, if you're not quite sure what the heck happened, right? So being constructive, being your own constructive self-criticizer, because this is why a lot of people find it hard to be self-compassionate, because they think, no, I gotta be hard on myself if I gotta drive myself and motivate myself. And the research in self-compassion shows the opposite, that in fact, when we're more self-compassionate, we actually are more confident, we actually perform better, and we're actually more productive. So you can still, be your wisest coach. So think about how you can get better without the beating up part. And I love this quote from Kristen Neff. She's a leading researcher in the research on self-compassion. And she says, when it's safe to fail, it's safe to try. And I love that, because as entrepreneurs, if you're not trying new stuff, you're not pushing the envelope, you're not putting yourself out there enough. We have to make it safe for ourselves to go out and try new things and push the envelope on a regular basis. So the more we can do that, the better. And then what you want to be doing with every new try, you want to engage in what we call deliberate practice. It's not enough to just keep doing what you're doing and doing it over and over and over again and expect to get different results. It's about thinking about, okay, that didn't work. What am I going to do differently next time? What am I going to tweak? Now let me try again. Okay, that went better, but what worked, what didn't work? Okay, what am I going to tweak again? And now I'm going to try again. So with every try, you want to be engaged in what's called deliberate practice. Like I think about my yoga practice, for example. I go to yoga practically every single day. And on the off days, I do CrossFit. Now, so when I'm at CrossFit, I'm always thinking about how can I get better and better and better. That takes a long time for me to be able to do that, but it's slowly working. On the yoga side, I just go to yoga and I come home. So while my friends can do all the headstands and, you know, they can do that thing where they balance on two hands and lift, I can't do that, whatever that thing's called, crow or whatever it's called. I can't do those things because I just go to yoga. I do more of this. And I'm okay with that because I'm not deliberate. I don't want to necessarily get better at yoga. It's my hour to do my thing. So you can be doing something over and over for 10,000 hours or whatever it is and not getting any better because you're not engaging in this. And this is where you want to be if you want to keep getting better and better. The research in confidence will tell you that competence breeds confidence. So the more you can get better at it, the more confident you will be, and the more you'll be able to put yourself out there. So the next thing that I want to talk about now is about conquering stress and feeling strong. And actually, this is one of the CrossFit champions in North America. So stress is really important. It's really important to think about how stress affects you because we know that stress actually puts you into more of your emotional side of your brain. And where you want to be is you want to be in your prefrontal cortex, which is where more of your logical side of your brain is. So the less you're in stress, the more you can be more rational, logical, think things through. So we want to be able to reduce the stress as much as we can. So how many of you kind of feel like this a lot of the times?
If I had hair,
So I teach this stuff, and sometimes I feel like this. And, you know, when we feel like this, what do? We reach for our greatest resilience strategies. Right? Oh, I had a terrible day. Give me the Haagen-Dazs, right? For me, it's salt and vinegar chips. I did a talk to 600 Crown attorneys. I said, what is your greatest, you know, stress reduction technique? They said, I drink, right? You know, so I know a lot of people who drink, you know, to relieve the stress. They go home, they have a glass of wine, right? That's how they relieve the stress. And so this is what we do, right? Or Netflix, you know, addicted to Netflix, right? I'm addicted to Shameless. I'm sorry to say that, but yes, I am. Yes, yes, it's an addiction. I have a friend who's an addiction counselor. I said, are they starting to counsel people on addictions to Netflix? Because I think I've now got an addiction to Shameless. So we have to think about greater strategies. And really, when you're under a lot of stress, these are the things that you need to be doing to relieve your stress. You know, when my husband and I split up and we started to go through a divorce process, that's when I ate better than I ever ate before. I made sure that I was eating really, really healthy food, and I cut out a lot of processed stuff. I reduced my my consumption of alcohol because alcohol is a depressant. So we want to be eating clean and eating even better than we were before when we're stressed out. A lot of people, they don't realize that what you do to your body affects your mind. You know, people say there's this mind-body connection. There's no mind-body connection. The mind is the body is the mind. They're so interconnected, you can't separate the two. So what you're feeding your body definitely affects your mind. Also moving every single day, to be exercising every single day. I work out for an hour every single day, whether it's yoga or CrossFit or doing something else. I'm moving my body. And for those people who don't exercise and go, oh my gosh, this is terrible, just move your body. Just go for a walk. Sit and do some yoga stretches. Do something to move your body every single day. And make sure that you're getting enough sleep. You know, you should be having everybody has a different clock in terms of their own rhythms within their own bodies. But make sure that you are getting enough sleep every single night. You know, I bought a Tempur-Pedic bed, and I sleep like a baby on that Tempur-Pedic bed. It has absolutely transformed how I sleep. I get in and I pass out immediately. So it killed my marriage, but but I sleep really well. So it has some benefits.
What's enough sleep?
So, you know, they recommend sort of about 7 hours, but everybody's different, right? Everybody's different.
If you go to bed at like 11, midnight, and you're waking up at 7, 8, or even
Yes.
later than that,
Yes.
you're still getting 7, 8 hours, is that?
Yes, that's good. That's good. But again, everybody's different, right? And you want to have uninterrupted sleep, right? You want to be able to get into deep sleep. So if you're waking up throughout the night, that's not as helpful as if you go to bed at 12 and wake up at 6, but you've had a good solid, 6 hours, right? Or 7. So they recommend 7 or 8 hours. Once you get beyond that, then it's like you have too much sleep, right? And then that's not very helpful for productivity either. So eat, move, and sleep, and that's great. And here's another thing. It's not stress that affects you. It's how you interpret the stress that determines whether it has a positive or negative effect on you. So this was a really interesting study that was done. They tracked 30,000 adults for 8 years, and they asked 2 questions. How much stress did you experience last year? High, medium, low. And do you believe that stress is harmful for your health? And then they used public death records to see who died that year, all right? And they did this for 8 years, all right? Now, so what they found, those with high stress did have a 43% increased risk of dying, but only if they believed that stress was bad for them. Those who did not believe stress was bad for them had the lowest risk of dying of anyone in the study, including those who had low stress. So how you interpret it can make a difference. So, we can have good stress. We can take a look at our stress differently, right? Humans find some stress stimulating. If you can see the task ahead as a challenge versus a threat, you'll have more positive physiological responses. And this is the hack I use. I decided to go into business for myself, like 20 years ago. I've been working I always say to people, I'm completely unemployable. I can't work for anybody anymore the rest of my life. People have asked me, I'm like, no, thank you. No, people can't tell me what to do. Sorry, I can't do that. So I've been working for myself for so long. And when people say, oh my gosh, you have to do that thing, I say, no, I get to do it. I get to do it. People say, oh, you have to go do that talk on resilience for sales performance. Oh, I say, no, I get to. I'm so excited. I get to go and do that. I get to do my taxes, right? Right? I get to do it because then it's done, right? That's what I always say. Done is better than fun sometimes, right, when it comes to taxes. So just saying, do you hear that little flip in your brain? Because who decided to go into business? Does anybody force you to go do what you're doing? So why complain? You're the one who chose it, right? You're the one. So let's say get to more often, because it's amazing, right? When you work for yourself and when things are working, right? Here's another one that I use to relieve my stress, and that's mental rehearsal. And so what happens is, if I have like a big sales meeting with a CEO, for example, and I'm kind of anxious about it, then I sit, before or in my car when the car stopped, I will close my eyes and I will mentally rehearse the meeting before I go in to speak to the CEO. And I will, close my eyes and I'll think, oh, hi, things are going really well. And, and she's saying things to me like, oh, Louisa, you came to us right at the perfect time. oh yes, your pricing is right in our budget, right aligned with our budget. We love this. This is great. When can you get started? You know, this is what I envision is going on in my mind. And what's happening in my body is I'm starting to relax. I'm starting to go, oh, this, you know what? It's going to be fine. It's going to be good. Now, here's what's happening in our brains. What they know is that the neurons in your brain that process imagination have an 80% overlap with the neurons in our brain that process stuff we've already done. So imagining things we've done in the past. So there's an overlap. So sometimes by doing mental rehearsal, you can trick your brain into believing you've already done this. And when your brain believes you've already done this, it improves your confidence. You go, oh, I've done this before, I can do it again. So that mental rehearsal, anytime you have something that you're anxious about, and sports people have known this for years and years and years, and it works in business too, mentally rehearse. And I mentally rehearse my goals every morning. I think about they've already come true, and then I go into my day. I feel so much more confident and feel so much more positive energy as I go into my day. So mental rehearsal really can help reduce the stress. And the final thing that I want to talk about now is how to stay motivated and juiced no matter what. And really, one of the best ways to stay motivated, especially as you go through ups and downs, is optimism. And optimistic people experience higher levels of sales achievement. This was a really interesting study done at MetLife. They gave the optimism questionnaire to 200 experienced sales agents. So this is a questionnaire in the science that allows scientists to understand, are you an optimist or a pessimist? And so half of these sales reps were highly successful, the other half kind of unsuccessful. And the successful agents actually scored much more optimistically on the questionnaire than the unsuccessful agents did. And when test scores were matched with actual sales records, agents who scored in the most optimistic half had sold 37% more insurance on average in their first 2 years of work than agents in the pessimistic half. That's huge. That's huge. And agents who scored in the top 10% sold 88% more than the most pessimistic 10th. So being optimistic can really change your sales performance. And the good news is optimism can be learned. So what are the components of optimism? And again, I could spend 2 days teaching you this model, but let me show you quickly how we determine the difference between the two in the science. So you've got optimist versus pessimist. The real difference is their explanatory style. And what is that? That's your learned and habitual way of explaining bad events in your life. So when something bad happens, a pessimist would say, it's always going to be this way. So think about it for yourself. Are you saying things like, oh, it's always like this, or I never get this? If you're always hearing yourself say always and never in a negative way, these can be signs that you're thinking permanently around something. And it's everywhere. So something's happened over here, and now it's going to destroy your entire business and your life, and your partner's going to leave you, and you're going to be homeless, and right? And you start to go down that track. It's really pervasive. And it's all my fault. It's personal. It's me. There's something wrong with me. So these are the three components of a pessimistic explanatory style. And if you want to be more of an optimist, we have to be able to say, it's not permanent. Okay, I'm going through a bad month. It'll get better next month. It'll pass. You know that saying, this too shall pass, right? It'll pass. It'll get better. Not permanent. And the second thing, you know what? It's just this thing over here. Everything else is fine. Let me fix this one thing over here. Be specific with where you're going to direct your attention if you need to fix something, but don't make it pervasive and spread it out and all over your life. And also, it's not about you all the time. Make it not personal. Again, going back to that quote from Seth Godin, you know, it's not you, it's how you've approached it, right? So make it not personal. You know, there's got to be a different strategy. There's got to be something else going on here. So optimistic people, they make it temporary, they make it specific, and they don't make it personal all the time for them. That's how we can be more optimistic. And if you want to be more optimistic and you want to stay focused on getting better, you want to practice something called non-contingent self-esteem. I know that sounds like a fancy scientific word. This is the work of Jenny Crocker at Ohio State University. So first of all, this whole idea of contingent self-esteem is that we have, our self-esteem is, how do you feel about yourself? Do you feel good about yourself? Do you feel bad about yourself? Are you feeling that you're kind of a good person, an intelligent person, right? Self-esteem is kind of your global evaluation of how you feel about yourself. And we have, you know, we're invested. Like for me, for example, my self-esteem is not invested in how I play tennis. I don't really care. I'm really bad at tennis, and I don't really care. But my self-esteem is invested in my talks, in public speaking, right? So when we allow how we feel about ourselves to be contingent on how well we do, so then if I do a good performance, I feel good about myself. If I do a poor performance, I feel bad about myself. That's contingent self-esteem. And that's really problematic when we fail. So let me tell you a story. I had a young comedian, a very young woman, who came to one of my workshops. And she was not booking gigs because she would go, you know, as a young comedian, you're brand new, you kind of suck, right? So, you know, she's going and doing these talks and she's terrible. You know, she's doing her gigs and she's awful. And then she feels terrible. So she wasn't booking the gigs because she felt so bad. But then when she got this idea of practicing non-contingent self-esteem, she started to book gig after gig after gig because she knew the only way she's going to get better is by practicing. And she decided, no matter what, after every single try, after every single delivery of this gig, I'm going to feel good about myself. If it goes well, I'm going to feel good about myself. If it goes poorly, I'm going to feel good about myself. And then I'm totally going to focus on just what jokes worked, what jokes didn't work, what am I going to keep in, what am I going to take out. All right, let's try again. The timing was not good on that one. All right, here's how I'm going to do it next time. And she'd go and book her next gig. And she just consistently did that. And now she's doing incredibly well as a stand-up comedian in Toronto. So it's amazing. And so what I say to myself is, just because you're not where you want to be doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. You just haven't figured it out yet. This word is very powerful. You know, I had a friend of mine who was not sure about the technology and she had to do a particular job. And I said, look, and she kept saying, oh, I'm terrible at technology. I said, no, you're just not there yet. You're just not proficient at the technology yet. You will learn it, you will get better. And now she's saying, oh yeah, you know what? Now it's a no-brainer. Now I know exactly what to do. So it's amazing how if you just add that word, yet, it can be a very, very powerful word. And the other day I was watching the Jerry Seinfeld special on Netflix, and he said this: I didn't care if they liked me. I just wanted them to like the material. And I thought, that's non-contingent self-esteem. He totally just focused not on himself and whether he felt good about everything. He really just wanted them to like the material, and that's the way he approached his craft. And so I want to leave you with this final saying. It's one of my favorite quotes from Thich Nhat Hanh: no mud, no lotus. And I know that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're trudging through the mud. You know, sometimes I feel, some days I feel like I'm putting on, you know, those waders, the fly fishing, you know, waders, the boots that come up to your armpits. You know, I feel like I'm putting those on and get up and just trudge through that mud and keep going, Louisa, right? Some days I feel like that. But I know that when my business got to a point where I didn't have to worry about the money, I felt I had worked hard enough and built enough foundation that the money was coming in. I work for myself. I dictate my own time. I love what I do. I crafted it. It is the best feeling in the world. It's like my lotus flower. It's so worth it. So keep on persevering. Keep on with your dreams. Keep on, because it is so beautiful when it all comes together. So thank you, everybody. Thank you. So I have some time for questions, do I? Yeah?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have 15 minutes for questions.
Yes?
When we do hiring, we look at the locus of control for people to see whether they're extremely negative or positive. Do you have any resources you could recommend that looks for optimism in terms of interviewing techniques?
Yes. So have you seen the optimism questionnaire?
No, haven't.
So I can share that with you if you want. I
Is it
can
on
send
your
you the link.
website?
No, it's AuthenticHappiness.com. There's nowhere I can write. AuthenticHappiness.com has a number of different questionnaires that you could ask, that you could look into. And one of them is the optimism score. So you'll see one of the drop-down menus gives you all of the online assessments, and there's a whole ton there. And you could give them an optimism score. Some companies that I know too are also starting to hire for resilience. So they have some resilience assessments too. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
When you said that you have some, you say in your mind what you're going to say before you go in.
Yeah.
I'm finding that I'm saying it afterwards.
Oh, you're saying it
I should have
afterwards.
said that. Da, da, da,
Oh, yeah.
And then that's.
Yeah.
I switch that around to beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's kind of ruminating afterwards
Okay.
too, right?
Okay.
So if that's happening a lot, then write it down, like so that you can remember next time, so you can refer back to it before you go in. Next time if you're missing those particular things. I often, before I go into sales meetings, actually have my questions crafted. I think to myself, I need to know the answer to these 5 things in order for me to move this process forward. So I often will have questions ready beforehand. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks very much for your great content, by the way, Lisa. That's really great.
Yes.
I was wondering, so if you had any suggestions for some good questions to sort of constructively or positively deal with issues. So my sort of thought was, so the proverbial caca hits the fan.
Yeah.
You bring yourself back into a positive state of mind.
Yes.
But the issue is still there. So now you need to kind of move forward in a positive way and deal with it. Just wondering from a self-talk or a question point of view, do you have any favorites you like to use to try to positively deal with those issues?
Yeah, so are you feeling like you just don't know what to do, or you're not feeling confident that you can actually figure this out?
Probably more just looking at a situation that has really gotten you annoyed, but now you want to deal with it, but you want to deal with it in a positive way to move forward.
Right, okay, so one of my favorite questions when something happens, and I'm not feeling confident enough to be able to address it, is I say, when has this happened to me before? When have I ever encountered this in the past? What did I do then? Right? And so sometimes that can be very helpful because I forget, right? I forget that this has actually happened to me in the past. And then when I feel like, oh, I know this strategy because I've done this in the past, then I feel like I can do it again. Oftentimes when something happens too, I'll say, okay, if it's like, oftentimes it has to do with a difficult person, right? So something's happened, I'm not getting along with this particular person, then usually what I do is I think to myself, all right, let me stand in their shoes right now. Let me take a look at it from their perspective. And it takes a lot of, you kind of got to put your ego on the table when you do that, because a lot of people can't do that. So I ask myself, what was my contribution to this conflict? And what do I think is happening from their perspective that maybe I'm not seeing right now, right? And then I always like to have an open dialogue with that person, sit down when we're in a better state of mind, to be able to actually sit down with them and talk it through and see if we can come to a resolution. But I always ask them, what's going on with you right now? How are you perceiving this situation? I had a situation where a woman walked out of a board meeting. She was so angry with something I said, and she walked out, and I'm like, what the heck happened? And I tried to call her after. She wouldn't take my calls. Finally, she picks up, takes my call, and I asked her that one question, what was going on with you in that moment? And when she said it, I was like, oh my gosh, of course you would feel that way. I had no idea, of course. And once I was able to say to her, oh, I totally get it now. I totally get you. And I understand what's going on here. Then, you know, and I remember we walked away and she looked at me and she goes, I love you, Louisa. And I'm like, what? Never expected that person to ever say that to me. So sometimes that can be it, like just talking it through, I find. Or, you know, for me with problem solving, if I can't figure it out, I call someone. What would you do, right? What would you do? Because oftentimes we don't reach out to people. We think, oh, I don't want to bother people. I don't want to burden people. You know, so that's one of my go-to strategies too, is to ask somebody, like, what would you do in this particular case, right? Is that helpful?
Very helpful, thank you.
Okay. Yes.
You were talking about, you know, thinking about something over and over and over again. You
Yes.
gave it a word.
Rumination.
Rumination. And then you said you trained yourself out.
Yes.
For me, that's the like pinpoint thing that can throw my entire day off.
Yes.
My mind will just go with it, and it's like one thing that someone says to me,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, the company's gonna shut down tomorrow, and I'm not gonna have a job, and like just,
Yeah.
like the worst
And it
possible
spirals.
scenarios, and it's like I don't even listen to logic at that point, like
Yeah.
obviously that's not gonna happen, but
Right.
how did you train yourself out of that? Do you have some more tips for that?
Okay.
That's really where I struggle.
Okay, so first things first, I actually wrote a book, a free ebook, and it's called The Rumination Cure. So here's my email address, louisa@louisajewell.com. If you want a copy of my free ebook, just email me and I'll send you a copy of it. And it's called The Rumination Cure. So what they find in the research that, again, it's worse for women than men. It's more of a problem for women than men. And they also found, did you know that women are twice as likely as men to become depressed? And what they found is that rumination is one of the #1 contributors to female depression. So rumination is a problem, and if you can fix it, you can fix it. And in fact, I had a student who came to me the other day and said, I read your rumination cure a couple of months ago. I've been practicing. She said, it's amazing, the shifts that are happening. I'm starting to get rid of this. And it takes a while because when you ruminate, it's been going on for so many years. It's so insidious that you don't even know it's happening. So it can take a while before you train yourself. So you just got to keep practicing until it's done. And I remember that day when I stopped ruminating and I was walking. I had just taken my daughter and her friends skiing, and we get there and they decide they don't want to ski, they want to snowboard. So now I got to stand in the line, the big huge line, and get them all the snowboarding equipment that I was not anticipating. So it's taken like an hour. Now it's they're off. Now it's my turn. And I'm walking like a football field away to my car to get my skis, and this thing comes into my mind, says, "You're a good mom," and I'm like, "Oh my God! I just had a positive rumination."
It took an hour and
Yeah.
less than an hour of skiing. We drove all the way up
Yeah.
here. And
I had this, I was like, who said that? and so it is possible to train yourself out of ruminating. It takes a while to do it, but it's really important. Yeah. Yeah. And so just as a first tip, become aware. Just become aware.
Right.
Just say, oh, there I am. There it is. I see it. Sometimes even wearing an elastic on your wrists, like snap the elastic, just so you have also a sensory thing too. Just start with becoming aware of when you're doing it and what you're saying to yourself. Yeah. Yes. Oh, right here?
Yes. Thank you very much for all the tips. Everything was wonderful. The mastermind group,
Yes.
what would make a successful mastermind group? Because you don't want somebody too
Yes.
lopsided, so what would be a good mix?
Yes. So what they find is that you want to surround yourself with people who are kind of a level above you at something that you're striving for. And so people get confused with that, because how do you do that? So people enter mastermind groups for different reasons. So for example, with me, 4 years ago, I was thinking about writing a book, right? And I had an idea and I had started writing but hadn't really, thought about it, right? So I got into a mastermind group with 3 other people who were already successful authors, had already written several books. So I was interested in learning from their journey, and they helped me tremendously, and today I have a book. They wanted to know more about online marketing, and I was light years ahead on that side of it. So they wanted to know more about that. So you see, we all kind of brought different strengths to the table, but you want people who are kind of above you. Because there's been a lot of people who come to me and say, oh, can I be part of your mastermind group? But really what they're asking me is, will you be my mentor? Because they're nowhere near, and they just want to learn from me. And I say, I don't mind being your mentor, but that's not a mastermind partnership here. That's more of a mentoring partnership, and I'm happy to. I mentor a lot of women who are, just starting their businesses. So, that's sort of where you want to be. Great resource. If you Google it, Jack Canfield has a guide to, it's actually in my book too, I've got the reference to it, but if you Google it, Jack Canfield, I think, Guide to Creating a Mastermind Group or something like that. And it's a great little 4-page PDF on how to do it. It's a really good guide. And what I find is, and I've started different mastermind groups that went nowhere, you really have to be committed and religious with your meetings, that you don't miss a meeting, you don't cancel your meeting because something else has come up, unless, like we've had things where fathers have fallen and the person, of course, right? There's stuff like that happens. But we are very, very religious. And not only that, outside of the mastermind, we're very committed to helping each other build each other's businesses. So when one of my mastermind group people says to me, Louisa, I just launched a new program. Can you send it out to all your networks? Yep, I'm sending it out to everybody that I can. We're very committed to each other in terms of building each other's businesses and doing what we can to help each other personally and professionally, because I remember when we started the mastermind, my husband had just left. So it was like, whoa. And so they helped me through, all that as well. And they kind of laugh now. They go, my gosh, do you remember our first mastermind? You just told us this, and now look where you are now. And, so we kind of have come a long way together.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi there. I was wondering if you have any tips on how to handle the negative or pessimistic people that, sometimes we can distance ourselves from and sometimes we cannot. And
Yes.
I find that those that I cannot, I tend to zap my energy over time.
Yes, yes. Okay, so the question, if you didn't hear it, is how do we deal with those negative people that are, suck our energy all the time? And, I always say stay away from them, right? Stay away. And, but with family members, we can't always do that, but I still say stay away, right? Because it's like family members think they have permission to tell you all your ideas are stupid, right? I don't know what it is, but and it hurts more when it's a family member, because I remember thinking, oh, if my own father thinks that, right? My own sister thinks that, which is not true. Our family members are harder on us because I found a little bit of compassion in the sense that, they're just kind of protecting you. They just want to know, are you going to be okay in this business? Because it's risky, right? So that's one perspective that I take a look at it. Also, when you have new ideas around your business, those ideas are fragile right now at the beginning. You haven't tried them out. So your confidence is also fragile at the beginning. So don't share those ideas with your family members. Don't open yourself, share them with your most trusted colleagues that will be supportive of what you're doing. So I say don't share too early with those people that can come back and bash your idea. And the next thing you know, the thing is that we know from the research is that self-doubt is very socially constructed. You might be feeling great about your idea and somebody goes, oh, really? Oh, I don't know about that idea. And suddenly now you're not doing it because one person looked at you the wrong way. We're very social creatures. We're very affected by what other people think. It has more of an effect on you than you think. So be careful not to let out your ideas too early. And the greatest resource I have for dealing with difficult people in your life without engaging, because what you don't want is you don't want to engage your body anymore in that, right? So you can see them, but you don't want to engage. It's a book. Everybody write this down. It's called The Law of the Garbage Truck. The Law of the Garbage Truck, written by my very good friend, David Paullay, P-O-L-L-A-Y, David, P-O-L-L-A-Y, The Law of the Garbage Truck. And if you have difficult people in your life, he teaches you how to not react. And the whole idea is there are some people who just drive around like a garbage truck. And they're just looking, right? That person who's always complaining about the photocopier, or I'm doing this one thing and it's not my course, but I deliver it, and there's errors in the workbook, and I hear about this workbook every single time I see this person. They got a dump on me about the workbook. So now when I see them, I go, though, don't look at the workbook today. Don't look at it because you will be frustrated. Put it away. Let's have an enjoyable day. And I don't let it bother me anymore, right? And so think about who are the garbage trucks in your life, and can you just say, yep, I'm not accepting your garbage today. I'm not your garbage truck, not open for business, right? But when you know it, like there's a family member that I know that always does that for me. And before I drive there, I think, okay, if she says this, I'm going to say that. If she says that, I'm going to say that. Right? And I'm so stressed out. Now I just say, whatever she says, I know she's going to try to bug me, and I will just ignore it. Wave, bye-bye, garbage truck. Right? That book changed my life. I'm telling you, it can be. And some people think we're not being compassionate if we're calling someone a garbage truck. I don't call them a garbage truck to their face. I just say it like internally. Nobody has to know. And I can still be compassionate for that person, but it just gave me great strategies to not engage. Because if you are having a physiological reaction to every stressor that happens in your body, you eventually will get sick, right? There is stuff going on in your body. We know, for example, that negative emotions, when we have a negative emotion, there's a negative activation that affects our heart, right? So the more that happens, the more we're going to contribute to cardiovascular disease over time. This is why they do anger management with some people who've just had a heart attack. Or they do, meditation. They teach people who have had a heart attack meditation because people have to reduce their stress. So many wellness programs focus on food and exercise, and they forget the effects of stress on our physical well-being. So we gotta learn strategies where we're not filling our bodies with that stress on a regular basis. And dealing with difficult people is one of the hardest things to do. Yeah. Yes?
Would you recommend any podcasts or anybody that you listen to that maybe in your car or somewhere where you maybe need that little positive thought when you're driving, because everything is rather negative sometimes?
Yes. Well, I do a weekly podcast, if you're interested. Just saying. It's called, that was a good, thank you. I'll give you your $20 later. Yeah. I do what's called a weekly juice. And it's just Tuesday mornings. I send it out, so it went out this morning. I just do a little quick tip, like 3 or 4 minutes on how you can raise your confidence, how you can raise your positivity, whatever. I might do an interview with someone. So again, it's just a quick little thing. But also, one of my favorite things that also comes out on Tuesday mornings is Marie Forleo. Marie Forleo. So Marie, and then her last name, Forleo. She's an entrepreneur. She does a lot of online marketing stuff. She has an online marketing program called B School. If you're interested in that, it starts in March, and she only opens up registration for a very, very short period of time. Once it starts in March, that's it. Then you won't have another opportunity to do it again until the following March. But every Tuesday she puts out what's called Marie TV. And she has great little, discussions around being an entrepreneur and how to deal with different issues on a daily basis that we deal with as an entrepreneur. She's got now hundreds of shows on her Marie TV YouTube channel, so you could spend hours and hours listening to Marie TV. And she's got some great little tips there. Yeah.
Louisa, thank you very much. I'd just like to do a draw of your books.
Okay.
So
All right, good.
I have some ideas here. Yes, so these are signed by Louisa. So I'd like to ask, who has been in business longer than 25 years? 26 years in their own business. Hands up. 26 years. 27 years. Still hands up at the back. 28 years. 29 years.
Is this an age?
30 years in business.
Wow.
Put that hand up high. There's two of you. 31. Okay, just tell me how long.
Nearly 40 years.
Wow.
Wow. 34.
Okay.
Okay.
Well done. I think
There's one more here.
the great book.
Yeah.
35 and 40 for Susan. Thank you. Susan, well done. Who had a birthday close to today?
February 16.
February 7th. February 16th for you?
No, I'm not eligible. I got one in the car for.
What date is it? It's the 20th today, right? Yes. Anybody's birthday close to today? Anybody the 19th, 18th, 17th, 16th? I was the 7th. 15? Nobody's 7th. Kevin, you were first here today. For you. Who drove from the furthest today? Scarborough, any further?
Where in Scarborough?
Cannington is an hour away.
Beaverton.
Beaverton wins.
It's a pack of lunch drive.
And last book. Who just registered their business? Who started recently?
I registered 2 days ago.
Wow.
Eugene, actually, a lot of what he's doing is around positive psychology, mindset.
2 days ago was Sunday.
You can register online. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Frank just has some words to say. Thank you, Louisa.
So that was awesome. I just wanted to, Louisa, I know, when you say you meet somebody for a reason, for those that do know a little bit about me, I'm very much involved in the angel investing, along with Jeffrey Potvin in the back with this OPN. And one of the things that Louisa is going to be doing is she's going to get involved in the angel world of investing, because I know that as a young entrepreneur, especially today, this is not something that they're giving thought to. I know when I grew up and I was going through my sales career and all that, this wasn't even a subject matter. You actually kind of stayed away from it, if you know what I mean. So this is wonderful. So our next speaker, which ties right into this, is Emma Harris. Emma's a young lady, entrepreneur. She created a virtual reality with pets. She actually won the Ignite contest just recently. a startup, doing phenomenal and kicking some butt. So what we tried to do this year is not only have people that have been through the trenches that can share with you, so there's seasoned like Gary, who was just talking to us in January, but also having the mind, the happy people sell more, and then of course these young entrepreneurs. So we have 3 of them this year. All of them are women, which is fantastic because I like to see more women entrepreneurs enter. For every 10 that we get pitching, about 1 is a woman. So we're going to bring in Louisa and some of her friends and contacts to see how we can get involved in the angel startup world so that they have a lot more success and opportunity for success. So does that sound good? So our next one is March 20th. Her name again is Emma Harris. The company's called healthypets.io, and I know she's very much looking forward to meeting you. So again, thank you very much, Louisa. Have a great day.
It's healthy.ca.